In the Mouth of Madness is the 1994 horror movie directed by John Carpenter, and it stars Sam Neill, Julie Carmen, and that guy from Ghostbusters 2. Now this is another horror movie, a big horror movie that I've never seen before, and it is a bit shocking because it is directed by John Carpenter. Believe it or not, there's more than one John Carpenter movie that I've never seen before, and I'll be doing a review for some of those in the future. But In the Mouth of Madness, this is the first time I've ever seen In the Mouth of Madness. I've heard good things about it. I've also heard that it's one of the best John Carpenter movies and one of his last best movies from 1994. So that's what made me interested in watching this film for the first time. Now straight off the bat, this felt like a film that John Carpenter maybe had it in mind for a long time. After Halloween 3, the anthology of Season of the Witch, I've got a funny feeling that he maybe had this story in mind for an anthology movie for the Halloween series. It had the same kind of character development. You had a guy and a girl going across town into this isolated town looking for answers, and that's what happened in Halloween Season of the Witch, and that's what this movie felt like as well. It was about this guy. It starts off near the end of the movie where Sam Neill's character is a little bit crazy after reading this book, and the town's going crazy for reading this book by Sutter Kane. It's got a lot of nods to Stephen King in this film. You've got a story about a guy who writes a book. A couple of people go to this guy's hometown to find out if anybody knows about him, trying to look for answers basically. And you see a little nod to Stephen King in this film when they look at the map of Hobbs, is it Hobbs End? They want to go to Hobbs End, and it's right next to Maine where Stephen King was born. I think when they go to Hobbs End, it was quite a creepy town. You've got Happy Gilmore's grandma in it, who was very creepy, and I like her as an actress. And I just think the whole town being isolated and just having a few people around town with these kids as well, it was very eerie, and I liked that part of the film the best, to be honest. As the movie progresses, it gets a little bit more ridiculous. It is a 1990s horror movie. The 1990s, especially the early 90s, weren't kind to us for horror movies, and I think this is one of the better 90s horror movies. But as the movie progressed for me, when we start seeing monsters and things, I thought, no, I don't really like that. For a John Carpenter movie, I think that the cinematography was a little off. I don't know if maybe he got help from somebody else that he wouldn't get help from before, but they used a lot of wide angle shots, which is classic John Carpenter, but I think he was maybe practicing with these very badly wide angle shots with a wide angle lens. There were some scenes when it was so wide angle it looks a little bit distorted, so the cinematography for this film was a bit off for a John Carpenter movie. It also didn't feel like a John Carpenter story, even though I'm saying it was similar to Season of the Witch. It felt like a H.P. Lovecraft film, and I think that's maybe because of the monsters involved in it and the look of the film. It just didn't feel like a John Carpenter film. And Sam Neill's accent, that was worse than Liam Neeson's American accent.
Well, usually, yeah, that's the way it goes. It's just I have a few final questions to ask about the fire.
Now, although I wasn't keen on the whole storyline, I did mention that it is one of the better 90s horror movies, and I think it did have a decent storyline overall. The monsters, when the monsters came into it, I thought it was ridiculous. However, I think that the practical effects that they used for the monsters were good. It reminded me of John Carpenter's The Thing. I'm glad they didn't go too CGI. They did have a few CGI scenes because it was early 90s, it was a little bit cheesy, but most of the time they used practical effects. Even on the townsfolk that they had the kind of scars on their face, it was all practical, so that was good. I think this movie opens up an avenue which would make for a good film, and that would be for a couple, maybe a man and a woman, going to Maine and asking about Stephen King, and people going, no, I've never heard of him. I think that would make a really good creepy horror movie, so maybe you should write one like that, Stephen. Overall guys, I think this film was an okay movie, an okay horror movie. It certainly wasn't anywhere near John Carpenter's worst, because I have seen bad John Carpenter films, but it was nowhere near one of his best. So I disagree with most people that say that this was a fantastic film. I think it was okay. I probably won't watch it again, and I think my problem with watching this movie again is I probably had to have seen this back in 1994 to appreciate it now. Seeing it now, it's very dated, and I wouldn't go back to it again. The acting was good in it. I don't think anybody was bad at acting in it. Sam Neill's accent was terrible, but he was a good actor. Julie Carmen, she's always good in her films. I love her in Fright Night 2. Julie Carmen follows me on Twitter, by the way. But yeah, it was an okay film. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, but if it was on the TV, I would maybe say to somebody, check out In the Mouth of Madness, let me know what you think of it. And that's what I think you should do, guys. Let me know what you think of this film down below. Is it one of the best John Carpenter films, or is it one of the worst? Anyway guys, thanks a lot for watching again. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.